do my work, talk to you, and see how this goes. The whole purpose of this is going to be to have a bit of a chat to people and see who's out there, see who's on at a silly time of day or night, to have a chat about things that frustrate us about business. I actually have done a few lives, hit and miss. Something I'm probably going to do a bit more of if we can get some traction with it. So we'll see how that goes. But where I'm at the moment is one of the things that I just put a reel out, might not be out yet, it'll be out, is around the whole concept behind business and specifically risk. Risk in business is one of those interesting things. I've been pondering it for a while, and I think risk is probably one of the biggest, if not the biggest, single element when it comes to business. That if you can get your head around that, you can get your head around everything in business. Risk is really interesting because we often think about it from you're trying to get away from it. And I guess in some sense we are, but everybody's trying to get away from risk. Nobody likes, taking unnecessary risks. And I think that's a bit of the catch, is it's the unnecessary risks that people face day to day, business, life, whatever, that we don't like. We're okay with taking risk if it's a risk that we put in place and we're happy with the outcome. If we think that the chance of things going really bad, or us getting hurt, and hurt can be emotional, not just physical, but anything that risks us getting hurt, we tend to be very wary of and steer away from. So how does that relate to business? Like we all, you understand the concept that some people will take a risk of jumping off a waterfall into a lake because that's fun. They know it's not going to hurt. They've done it before. They have a certain risk tolerance to that activity. And to them, the reward of the adrenaline rush of jumping off the waterfall outweighs the risk of maybe getting a little bit hurt by the water. They know it's not really going to do anything long-term damage. So what the heck, let's go. You take somebody who doesn't understand that risk and they get to the edge and go, I am fearful that the risk I'm about to take is too great. When that kicks in business, one of the hardest things that you've got to deal with is everybody is probably more skeptical. You're more like the person that's never jumped off a waterfall when you're going to deal with anything in business. You're going to buy something. Your brain's already wired to say, how do I come out on top? How do I mitigate my risk? How do I not get screwed over in this transaction? And so when that starts occurring in business, our job as business owners is to somehow overcome that and mitigate the risk for the customer. Now, the issue is if you're in an industry that has a lot of, let's say, bad actors inside the business industry that you're a part of, then you're going to be labeled as high risk in people's minds. Now, the other business that I have is in solar. The solar industry has got a lot of bad actors in it. There are a lot of people ripping off a lot of people. And so when you say that you're in the solar industry, people instantly have that perception of, hey, this is probably high risk. The likelihood that you're a good guy in the mix of all the bad guys is pretty low. So I'm probably going to be super cautious about how I approach this because my perception of the risk and the danger is super high. So I'm going to have all my guard up. I'm going to have all of my defenses up, and I'm going to try and back out of this probably pretty quickly because there is a perception of danger. Now, one of the interesting things with risk, and when it pertains to business, our job is to be able to take that risk element away for the client. And one of the things that people miss in business is one of the greatest risks that somebody is going to have to overcome initially is actually to give you something, their time. And so we think of it of going, well, I'm not asking them for money. I just want them to listen to me. Same as what I'm doing here. If I don't provide enough value here quick enough, people tune in. Not for me, tune out. I haven't given enough that it actually warrants even somebody's time. And so we all struggle with this in business, where you're trying to overcome that initial hurdle of, I am asking you for something. I'm asking you for your time. Now, how valuable is your time, and do you think that what I have to give is worth that investment of time? So this is where, when you get into advertising, things like this, anything that you put out for people, you need to be able to give some sort of value to them fairly quickly. Otherwise, they think that you're actually stealing from them by taking their time, and they've got nothing in return. In the modern era, unfortunately, that is counted in seconds, not hours. So people are going to say, well, did I get a return on my first 5 seconds? If I didn't, you've probably all heard the phrase. It's, well, never getting that time back again. And it's because people are very skeptical and they feel like they're being stolen from just because you chewed up 5 seconds of their life. So this is where we get into advertising in business. And hello to everybody. I can see the comments kicking in there. I've got Zorro One Piece. Cool. How you doing, man? And Cold Flex. How you going? Good to see you guys there. Now, while you guys are here and jumping around, I'm more than happy for you to drop a question in about business. Anything you want to know on the business front. I may not have all the answers, but I'll do my best. If you've got something you want to throw in, drop it in the comments and we'll switch tact and we'll chat about whatever it is that's interesting to you people. Because I would like to do what I can to help. That's the whole point of this live stream is, I'm going to start doing these. I'm in two minds. I'm either going to start building a subscriber base and these are going to be value adds that just happen randomly when I've got some spare time, or we may make it a more set thing that I do for people. We've got a couple of thousand people on YouTube on the channel. I've got a myriad of other pages out there that we're going to try and consolidate in. We've got quite a few on Facebook and all the rest. So depending on how busy we get, and keeping in mind that I have a couple of companies that I'm running, I've got a couple of companies that are about to be spun up. We've got a really exciting thing that's about to be launched, all with regards to the launch is about the solar industry. I'm in the middle of writing stuff with regards to some coding and work on a new launch that's happening. Anyway, enough about me. So back to what I was saying on the risk, and I'm still watching the chat here for anyone who wants to jump in with a business-related question. I just thought I'd explain a little bit of who I am, what I do. Does he know he's currently being hunted down by the Israeli Defense Force? I'm not sure who we're talking about. I don't think I am. I really don't think I have enough interest, or people have enough interest in what I do to be hunted by the IDF. Anyway, maybe. Whatever. Look, back onto the risk side in business. One of the things that we do with our advertising when it comes to actually getting people to trust us and listen to us is overcoming that fear of risk, fear of loss that everybody is going on about. One of the biggest things, if you think about risk in a very basic business sense, if you go to buy a t-shirt and that t-shirt is of a okay quality, you're not sure if it's good, bad, or indifferent, but if it is, then what you're going to do is look at it and go, okay, how much money are they asking for it? And do I think it's worth the risk? This is why a lot of those places, shops that sell $5, $10 t-shirts can stay in business. If they can get the product cheap enough that they've got margin on it, then when they sell it at a $5 or $10 for a t-shirt, people will buy it because there's virtually no risk. It's like, well, one coffee these days basically chews that up. What do I care? I get a whole t-shirt for it. Don't overly care if I assume it's bad quality, but I'll take it. If that same t-shirt was $50 or $100, now people are going to say, okay, what am I getting for my money? Now the risk is starting to go the other way. And this is where, if you're selling anything that is high end, you have to have a very clear proposition as to why you are more expensive. It can't just be, well, it's better. That's an empty claim. You've got to then have proof as to why it's better. Which is why if you look at high-end brands, I'm thinking more down the clothing line now, you'll find that they'll explain the materials. It's Egyptian cotton, and it is hand woven silk, and it is all these things that people understand there is an inherent cost to, which makes the item more valuable. And so in doing that, it allows people to kind of reconcile the fact that, okay, it's more expensive, but there's a reason for it. It makes sense for the reason, so I'm cool. I will, part with the money. The risk for the outcome seems fair. And that's where you can have these higher brands. Now, one of the interesting things when you get up a level again is it goes from not being about the product to being about the brand itself. If you think of any of these really high-end luxury handbags that women go after, high-end vehicles. I mean, a classic one on the vehicle front is the Bugatti Veyron. There is so many parts on that people have pulled apart and gone, hey, look, it's stamped Ford on the back of it, or it's stamped, BMW or whatever it is on the back of it. And people aren't buying the fact that that indicator was handcrafted in some glass palace somewhere. It's the fact that Bugatti only make certain number of cars. They're very expensive, and if you have one, people look at it and go, oh wow, he must be a somebody. You're buying status. You're buying the brand. It has nothing to do with product anymore. In fact, arguably there are much better made cars out there from the reviews that I've seen on the actual construction. However, the other brands don't have the brand association that people want one of those just because it is one. And so this is all levels of marketing, levels of advertising that come into business, is working out where those risks are for the customer, how you can mitigate those risks. So to the Bugatti example, if you look at what they've got going on, the risk is fairly low for what the person is going into that market for. They're going there for status and reputation. And so they know the minute that they purchase it, they get what they want. They get what they went into that transaction for. Most people, when they're going into sales inside their business, generally smaller ticket than Bugatti, and they're doing small ticket stuff. Let's talk, hairdressers, tradespeople, any trade service type business. One of the strategies in that is trying to present yourself where you're not just selling the product, you're selling either a complete service, you're selling additional things, or you're supplying things that are additional to what other people in the market would do, because people have in their minds the value that something is worth. Unfortunately, when it comes to trade services, so many people assume that they know what goes into the business, and we face this all the time in our solar company, is that people think, I've looked online, I know how much the inverter and the batteries and the solar panels are, so I will just assume that I know how much the job should be worth. Now, have they calculated the insurance that it took to run the guys, the recruitment costs, the advertising costs that it took to get people in so you could make the sale? Do they factor any of that in? No. They have an assumption of the market because there's enough information out there that they feel like they know where the value line sits, and generally they don't. So this is where marketing and advertising have such a big part of business, because its job is to show people where value is over and above just the product. Because if we're just saying, well, we have a small product over here and we're going to run thin margins and we're going to compete because, widget A versus widget A, and we're just going to beat them on price. Now you can play that game. Then you play against all the big players in the industry. You play against your Bunnings and your Woolworths and Coles and all of those who have razor thin margins, but they have such a level of volume that they're profitable. And a lot of the big companies will run that. When you're a small business, it makes it very difficult to actually be profitable because you don't have volume like that. So you have to make a market differentiator between what the others in the industry have, the big players, and what you have. So specialization becomes one of the key things that you can do, especially in trade service businesses, where you provide a better level of service. Most people are familiar with, if you go to a big company, the level of individualized service is pretty dismal. You go to Yeah, if you're in Australia and you have a mobile phone, you've probably just discovered Telstra over the last couple of days with the network outages that have been, well, they're still floating around. They haven't fixed everything yet. Now, if you call Telstra and say, hey, I've got a problem, do you think you're going to get much in the way of personalised service? If you provide, let's say, lawn care, and you mow somebody's lawn, you trim their hedges, and they call up and say, hey, I'm not real happy with the service. There was a whole back corner of the block got missed. You have an advantage where you can go, hey, you know what? You're right, we messed up. We'll be right there and fix it. You're not going to get that kind of service from the big guys, are you? And it's these differentiators that we kind of overlook because we just assume, well, of course I'd just go back and fix it. But realize that makes you different because the big players aren't doing that. So it's being able to create those clear defining differences that make you valuable to the client. And another thing that so many small businesses miss, you need your clients to tell you what's valuable, not you. A lot of us got into business because it was something we were passionate about and we saw the value and we saw how it could help people. We just forgot to find out if anybody else thought it was valuable. And so that's a huge catch. And it leads to a lot of people opening up businesses which are passion projects, which is where they go after something they're interested in, but there's no market. They think it's a good idea because it's their idea and it's their sort of baby and they think it's going to help, but they never bother to ask the broader public if they would be willing to pay for it or if they even like the idea. Give me a moment. I'm going to have a bit of a read down here. Let's have a look. Extraordinary things are always hiding in places people never think to look. That is a very true statement. Unfortunately, we're kind of trained as human beings to be very introverted, self-centered, self-focused. One, primarily from a preservation point of view, we are very much wired to take care of us. And so if we're not careful, our default wiring is going to teach us to always look through the lens of what's best for me, which is great if you're trying to stay alive. It's terrible if you're trying to run a business because the general public don't share your particular point of view. It's unique to you. You said we all live in the same world, but we experience it different and we see it different and we have different emotions attached to it, which filter and color our lenses of how we see things. Because of that, we then assume that the world looks a particular way. And of course, everybody sees it the way I do because I see it that way. The problem is in business, this is why market research in business is such a strong concept and a strong player in growing a business. If you don't know what the market wants, then what are you doing? You're just coming up with a random idea to chew up all of your time and all of your money and give you nothing at the other end. So one of the best pieces of advice that I heard from someone about how to start a business was actually to get take a broad look at what's going on around you. If you're going to do something, let's call it trade service, local business, have a look at services that don't exist that people want. One of the best things you can do is jump onto the local community forums on Facebook and have a look at what people are complaining about. What services don't they have, or what services are local to them but really don't do a good job? All you need to do is pick something that you can do that people have an interest in that nobody's filling the spot for. And if that's the case, you can just do it better than what other people are doing it. And ta-da, you're now the market leader in that market, in that area. That concept with a few tweaks to it is how businesses take over countries. Your Woolworths, your Coles, all they did was find a market that they had capacity to fill. Now, when they started, they weren't multinationals, right? They grew. But what they did was everybody's going to need hardware. They need to repair things and fix things and do work. And so if we can create volume, if we can create access, so it's become synonymous. You don't tend to say now, I'm going down to the hardware store. People say, I'm going to Bunnings. And they may mean a different brand of hardware store, but it's become so entrenched that Bunnings is just the go-to place if you need hardware. Now, they've done a great job on marketing. that people remember the little jingles and people remember the colors and people remember the layout because they're all the same. These things that make people feel safe. This comes back to our very first point where we're talking about risk. And so you can eliminate the risk, and fear is a risk, fear of the unknown, fear of wasting time. They're all risks. So when you go into a Bunnings, they're pretty much all laid out the same. If you're looking for screws, you can go either that end or that end. It'll be about the third aisle from either end, and it's all in the same place. And so if you're going to, set up a business, if you're going to go and do anything at scale, having something that is really repeatable is really valuable because it takes the risk out of it for people. They know what they're going into. If you can create a preview of what people are going to get, this comes back to the marketing and advertising. If people can see what's on the other side of whatever action you're asking them to take, then they look at it and go, you know what? I already know what to expect on the other side and I want that end result, so I'm happy to go through those steps. If people are just being asked to blindly sign up to something and that's it, just, hey, trust me, it'll be good, not a hope. This stream is one of those things. I've given this no context. I started this stream just because I decided to fill in a little bit this evening, have a bit of fun. See if I can help a few people, answer a few questions if they pop up. That's the whole point of this. I've given this no context. I've not put out any advertising. Nobody knows what this chat is about. And because of that, I'm watching the numbers and we've had, I think the best we had was like 8 people. Now, that's great. Hopefully something that I've said is helpful to a couple of people. Cool. The whole thing though is the reason there's not 100,000 people on here is because I didn't do a good job of actually setting this up to tell people what to come and expect, what they would get out of it and why it's worth their time. This is just a conversation around business. And so first up, I haven't filtered the audience. People are going to be coming past here going, I have no interest in business, so I don't want to stick around. Then you're going to have people who are interested in business, but don't know me, don't trust me, or don't like what I say. So they're going to move out. There's no guarantee, there's no promise attached to you guys watching this video. And so it's going to be very much people move in, move out. I don't expect there to be 100,000 people. Now, if this was advertised really well, and I put a lot of publicity into it beforehand, I explained exactly what it was going to be. I explained what you were going to get out of it and what was going to be on the other side if you put in some kind of effort or there was you'll have to pay X amount at the end, but this is what you get for it. And it was publicized really well. You would have a queue out the door if the value proposition was good. The issue that we've got with what I'm doing here is you've got none of that. I'm a talking head on a screen. I know that there would be almost nobody online that knows who I am. I don't care about that. I'm not doing it for the clout. I'm trying to help some people. Someone just said, are you Aussie? Yeah, the accent may have given it away. Sorry about that. I am most definitely Aussie. So, yes. Well, there you go. Somebody just said, I know who you are. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Should I be worried? That's all good. Look, the main thing with doing this sort of thing is just to try to test a few things for myself. I want to see whether there's actually engagement worth redoing these lives. One of the things that we are about to, or that I'm working on, I showed earlier in the middle of finishing up some code work on a platform that we're about to release, which is pretty cool. It's more geared to solar at the moment for people in Australia who are looking for solar. Once we get that live, which it should be live in the next few days, this whole platform will be rolled out to the US in the next couple of months for the same thing. There'll be a free tier, there'll be a paid tier, because there are certain elements to it that are being built that require quite a bit of back-end infrastructure to run on a day-to-day basis. So those are going to have to become one of those things that we do have to charge for just to make it viable. However, who have I got in there? You don't see your kids enough. Yes. The joys of trying to run a business. And I'm not home at the moment. I'm in a cabin on my way to work and other bits and pieces. I'm about to, off topic for the business, but I'm about to drive from the east coast to the west coast of Australia, and I'll be away from home for 6 to 8 weeks, unfortunately. But yes, So what kind of platform? I'll build it now with AI. Yeah. That's basically what I'm doing. Only here's a fun little one. Let's tangent for a minute. We're going to chat AI because it is a big factor in business these days. The interesting thing with the AI and the vibe coding and the build the stuff yourself is you can build some cool little trinkety things really fast. When you start to build things that are quite layered and you have a lot of back end, you have a lot of databases and a lot of information, it becomes hectic, to put it mildly. We've been at this, like I've been up till 2:30, 3 a.m. Most nights I'll start working at about, well, I'm working during the day here and there, but I'm doing the other business running. Then I'll go and put from about 5 p.m. to 2 a.m., 3 a.m. into this platform. Then I go back and do the other work during the day. So eyes are a little bit red and have been for months, but we're almost launched. So what is it? Cool. I'm gonna plug it here because I can. The way so what we're building with the platform is a solar reference tool and a solar design tool. We're training it on the same process that we go through as qualified designers for designing solar systems, and we're training the AI on all of the programmatical way of thinking through design work so it can actually give advice. It is being structured to give generalized advice because if we give specifics and somebody does something with that, tries to hook something up based on the information and gets hurt, there's liabilities involved. So we've got to strip it back to be a little bit more general. But we're training it on a database of every single solar panel, inverter, battery that exists in the Australian market. We're pulling all of the data sheets, the installation manuals, the warranty information, the fault codes, everything that you would need to know to figure it out, and putting it into one database and one app platform, desktop and mobile. So if you have an interest in solar, you can go through, ask it questions, talk to it and say, hey, this is my system. This is what I'm thinking about. This is my power bill. What should I do here? Should I have a battery? These are the situations at my property. What should I do with this? And you'll have a fully trained system that you can go and talk to, chat to, text to, get the answers like you would speaking to a qualified solar designer. The reason we built it, and this is where AI has its massive advantage. In the last 20 years, the conversations that I have had personally with people around solar is kind of the same questions over and over. You just need to tailor it a little bit to each person, but the fundamentals are all the same. So AI has the ability to take huge amounts of data in databases and then filter that through a chat or a voice system and have faster access to accurate information than even I can, because I'm drawing off just my knowledge and I might get confused on something. A well-trained database and a well-laid out system doesn't forget, and it references back to real data every time, so you get more accurate answers. The part that's taking a long time to do is the user interface, so that it's not just horrible to interact with. That's taken a lot more work than people first think. The other thing that takes a lot more is building the logic behind the databases. So you can give an AI system a database like, go search the internet, pull up all the data sheets. That could take it, like we're doing a scrape on a particular set of data. So we're going to take the PDFs from the manufacturers, we're going to pull them down into markdown files, we're going to categorize them into a proper system so that when a query is raised, it's really fast to find the information, like sub half a second. If you just say, go find me this online, it is going to go and hunt the internet. It's going to find something from a Google search, whether it's accurate or not, don't know. And then it just gives you this generalized who knows what answer. What we're building is something trained on very specific data so that if you have questions around solar, it has accurate answers. It's going to be a resource platform, so PDFs, videos, and everything about solar. It's going to be the design assistant tool. It's also going to be a find an installer. And we're going to have a section on there where we're going to have accredited installers who pass a vetting process with us before they can get on the platform. So if somebody goes and finds a solar installer through our platform, they're going to know they've already been pre-vetted. They've been ASIC checked, they've had their licenses checked, They've had their public reviews checked to make sure they're not complete scumbags. All of that kind of stuff is going into the platform. The other really useful thing that we're going to do is it will become the support tool for people who already have a solar system. So rather than having to try and call an electrician to say, hey, there's a problem with my system, they can literally go onto the app, take a photo, say, hey, there's a warning light on my screen. It'll be trained to know what that is and how to deal with it, and give you advice around faults and warranty processes or restart procedures, things like that. So I'm going to jump back into our little comments here. Am I using Google AI for it? No. So this is primarily, Google's involved. We are using a number of the Google systems in there, but one of the main coding system that we're using is Claude. But as far as the LLMs, we are running Claude, we are running OpenAI, and we are running Gemini. So a combination of LLMs on the back end for the logic side and web searching and things like that, so that queries are actually vetted rather than just being single source. Let's see the next one. Why am I bald? Do you want to know the whole story behind why I'm bald? I'll give you the short one. This is two things. When I was a young chap, I was fairly keen on the skateboarding scene, and I thought bleaching my hair with supermarket peroxide would be a cool thing to do, and then spike it and gel it up and all the rest. Yeah, I know, me, blonde hair and gel sort of doesn't look like it would fit. It didn't. It looked terrible. Anyway, because I wanted to try and make it white. Now, the inspiration for that was actually The Offspring. And I thought, I can do that. And so we would go and get, friends and I, supermarket peroxide bleach, put it in our hair during summer, and then it would say, leave it in for half an hour. So we would put it in as thick as we could, and then we would go skateboarding for a couple of hours, and you would hang out as long as you could until the pain just got too much from the acids and that burning your scalp, and then you'd go wash it out, because the idea that we had is it was going to bleach the hair and I'd get white hair. No, I just got really like smoker yellow hair, and it looked feral. Anyway, turns out chemical burning your head for consecutive years is a really good way to lose most of your hair by about 24. So by about 28, I took to it with a razor and went, that's it, I'm going to leave it off. So if any of you saw any of my real early stuff, you may have seen I used to have a beard down to about here as well. That was courtesy of actually some early coaching that I did. And one of the coaches that I was talking to, liked the business idea at the time, things like that. And then he actually was the one who said to me, if you want people to take you serious in business, you either need to significantly trim your beard or lose it altogether. And I decided I wasn't so keen on the naked face, given that I had the naked top. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to leave the beard short. Interesting, and since I've had quite a few people say, hey, well done. And I didn't realize it was something that I did. But what happened was, on the trip home, I flew back into Sydney. Sydney or Canberra, I can't remember. Flew into one of them. The very first thing I did after that few days at that coaching seminar, I went back. The first thing I did was went to a barber, and I went and got my beard cut. And the reason I say that is it was pointed out to me as like, wow, you don't waste time getting stuff done. And I was like, well, I've always been that way. If it's like, okay, we need to do something, we just make the change and we do it. And because of that, it's been pointed out to me since. I've now come to realize it. The speed to implementation is one of the biggest factors in being successful in business. We are hardwired, as I've mentioned right through this chat, to try to mitigate risk. One of the things that we do as human beings, we tend to be really good to instinctively know what to do in a whole bunch of situations. One of the great examples of this, you find people in these extreme stress situations, a car accident, war, a burglar break-in or something like that. Someone's, just all of a sudden these catastrophic situations occur. And a lot of people have this instinctive ability to flip the switch and just act in those situations almost without thinking and get it right. And get it right like the vast majority of the time. Which begs the question, how do they know how to do that? When you dig into human psychology, we actually know most of the answers to the questions that we have. Where we screw up is we think about it. Now, this sounds completely counterintuitive, and I assure you it's not, because I've been right down this rabbit hole. We intuitively think, hang on, if I kind of thought that, but I'm going to sit back and now I'm going to second guess myself, and I'm going to come up with all the reasons why this is probably a bad idea, and I'm going to talk myself back into this emotionally safe place that I've built for myself, and I'm going to push away anything that I thought I maybe should have done, and I'm going to ration a lie to myself about why I don't need to do it. And by the time you're done going through that process, you've talked yourself out of the action you knew you needed to do. If you could strip out all that emotion and just go, that's what I need to do, go do it, you would be a mile ahead of where you are. Now, this was something that a friend of mine actually put forward. Hello, Olivia. I hate how they jam all the names together. Olivia, anyway. How you going? See that hello down there? Look, what I was saying is we lie to ourselves to pull ourselves back into a place of safety every time we allow our rational mind to start to override our instinctive nature. And our instinctive nature is generally pretty good. And we're taught to kind of fall back to this secure, safe place. The problem is, secure and safe to our rational mind is somewhere that we're familiar with. By definition, it means back to where you already were. Not to something new, not to something better, back to what's familiar. If you're starting to see a pattern, that's because this is a pattern. If we're not careful and if we rely on our emotions to make our decisions, we're going to always drag ourselves back into the same conditions that we just tried to pull ourselves out of. And it's because the only thing that feels safe to us is things that we already know. To actually get ahead, you're going to have to do a whole bunch of stuff that you haven't done before. To get to somewhere that you haven't been before, you're going to have to do things that you've never done before, which means you're going to feel fear. You're going to have to push past that and figure out a way to get past. And so part of that is realizing that's how every human is wired. Back to what I was saying about business. Recognizing that's how everybody else is looking at you, and realizing that when you ask them for money, you ask them for time, you ask them for anything, you are having to justify why they need to do something new that they haven't done before with no guarantee of an outcome, no safety net. This is why some of the best guarantees you can have is, let's say you put some kind of ad out and you said, give me 5 minutes on the phone. If I can't solve XYZ problem in 5 minutes on the phone with you, I'll pay you $100. Now the value question is, random person online, is your time worth $100 per 5 minutes or less? Because if your time's worth less than that, that is an incredibly fail-safe offer in the fact that it's better return on investment for your time than you would get anywhere else. Now, the risk of this is if you give that kind of an offer, it needs to kind of be almost too good to be true, but with this rock solid guarantee. If you can pin those two things together, you overcome the fear factor, which is, I'm fearful, I'm skeptical, I don't know about this. However, they're promising a backup, which is a guarantee. We know what money's worth, and 5 minutes of time we know what that is. So two known things, 5 minutes, $100. Either way, it's either going to be that as the worst case scenario, because that's the offer fallback, or it's going to be better than that. So now I have an anchor to actually tie my expectation to. That's going to make me look at it and go, this must be really valuable if they're prepared to offer that as a reward or a safeguard on the back of that offer. I might have a bit more of a look at that. Now, interestingly enough, think about it right now that I've just said that. If I said, give me 5 minutes and I'll solve your business problems, and if I don't, I'll pay you $100. How many people would actually risk spending and signing up and putting their details down to sit down with me for 5 minutes so I could solve their business problems if that was an offer that I was putting forward? There is still a big chunk of skeptical on that. People are going to be skeptical in saying, do you actually have the $100 to give me? Or is this a lie? Do I trust both your offer and your guarantee? What what proof is there? And so even having something as bulletproof of an offer as that, you're still going to hit the psychological resistance of people going, there's too much danger here. I'm too fearful that that's a lie. I'm fearful that this is all just some online scam or something else. This is where the too good to be true is ringing in your ears saying that offer doesn't sound like it's possible. So there's so much that goes into the psychology, and this is why sales is such a deep subject. It's not just a case of, it's a one shot, learn a few tricks and now you can sell anything. The psychology behind sales is so deep because it deals with the human psychology, which is a interesting web to say the least. But given that, we're still getting a couple of people jump in, jump out, for the couple of you who are here at the moment, business questions. Have you got any? We're chatting business. That's the point of the little chat here this evening. If you've got any questions you want to raise regarding business, drop it in the chat and I'll give it a crack. I can't guarantee I've got every answer, but I'm more than happy to spend my time at the moment to have a crack and give you my thoughts and my ideas. I've been running my own businesses for nearly 20 years now. We're about to get in and launch some pretty cool stuff. On top of the businesses that are already running, we operate right across Australia. We're set up to launch very soon in the US. We've got a lot of stuff going on. If you've got any questions relating to business, your business idea, or anything that you just want to throw at me as a question. Now, you may notice through the chat if you've been hanging around, I don't answer every question because some of them are a little bit, that's not really what we're here for. Some of them don't make sense, is what it is. But if it's related to business, if it's a logical question, I will answer it for you. So, business is an interesting animal because nobody lacks information. We have the internet. Anybody who says they don't have the information just doesn't know where to look. And more than likely, it's not a case that they don't know where to look. They don't know how to apply it. Because you can have all the advice, you can have the best coaches, you can have all the information. If you don't know how to take the idea and turn it into something material inside of your business, then information is useless. Tony Robbins makes the point very well. He said, information is absolutely garbage. It's useless. Applied information, which my definition of that is wisdom. So you've got knowledge and wisdom. So knowledge is information. Wisdom is applied knowledge. And so most people lack the wisdom when it comes to their business. They don't know how to actually apply the information that they have learned. And you can learn everything you need to know to have $1 billion company from what's available on the internet. The trick is you don't have the internal skill set to be able to do the right thing with that information. I was talking a minute ago about that speed to action. If you had the information and you'd heard it from somebody and they said, the first thing you need to do is sell every physical possession you've got, pull that money up, you need $2,000 to $3,000, and then you go down this track, within 6 months. You don't have to live in your car for 6 months, but after 6 months, you're going to have 5 houses. And there was a proven playbook that was going to do that. Most people, even with the information, would not be willing to actually make the trade because they still have that fear that, what if something goes wrong? What if I can't pull it off? What if that doesn't happen? And they will then rationalize to themselves all the way back out the back door, back to where they're safe in their current job, in their current situation, and they won't move forward. Now, this is the same reason that wealth distribution doesn't work. If you haven't heard the analogy, if you took all the money in the world, divided it equally amongst everybody, within about 5 years, all of the money would be back in the hands of the rich people, the people who are currently rich. And it's not because they would steal it, not because they would swindle it out of people, although some of them, they have unethical business practices, but it's because they understand how money works. They know how to position themselves, they know how to position their businesses, they know how to make it work. And so if you then have this idea of distributing wealth, you're effectively taking a really good and useful resource and giving it to somebody who has no idea how to manage it, and they're going to squander it and waste it. The number of handouts and bailouts, Australia's seen a number of them. The government comes out and here's $2,000. Now, people that knew what to do with it added that to some kind of an investment portfolio, or did something where they actually put the money to work, where that $2,000 today probably worth $10,000 or $20,000. You know what all the poor people did with that $2,000? They bought TVs, they bought new phones, they bought a new jumper or t-shirt that's going to wear out. Now, admittedly, some people needed the basics. They needed their clothes. Fair enough, that's what it was sort of for. But the people that bought TVs or phones, you didn't need that. You could have survived without it. But it's just the mentality. The mentality is, oh, I've got money to spend. Let me go spend it. Rather than, oh, I have a tool here called money, and I know how to use that tool to get more. I know how to plant it, have it grow, and then I can, benefit off the back end of that. Most people don't have that skill. And the skill is knowing what knowledge, what information to then apply and what decisions to make to get the outcome. Because people lack that skill of knowing what to do, they can be given the exact same resource and they will fail over and over again. If you give that same resource to somebody who has the skill set and knows what to do with it, they are going to be able to turn that into something amazing. And this is why you have a certain amount of people that do really well in business and the vast majority that fail. And it's not that the idea is not solid, and it's not that they don't have a heart to try and make their businesses work. The issue is that difference between I understand what I should do, or I instinctively know what I should do, and actually doing it, that barrier and that breakdown is where pretty much everybody fails. And it's hard because you have to go out on a limb. You have to risk everything. You've got to go for it. And you're going to fail. You're going to make mistakes. I have for 20 years. You make hopefully different mistakes each time, but you make mistakes. You mess up. And from that, you learn. One of the greatest things, there's 5 people here. 4 people. If I can give you 4 people, probably the most valuable piece of advice that I've learned in the last 20 years of business. And that is, you learn nothing from success. You learn everything from failure. Don't be scared to fail. I'm actually in the process of writing a book about that entire topic, because failure is the indicator that what you just did was not the right course of action. It's the Thomas Edison example of tries to make the light bulb and it fails again. And someone says, so it didn't work. He goes, nope, we just found another way not to make it work, or found 10,000 ways for how not to make a light bulb. It wasn't a sign of failure. It's like it's one notch closer to success. And if you can reframe that and realize that giving it a go, trying, failing, getting back on your feet and trying again, that learning loop repeated is what breeds success, and there is no other way. Unfortunately, the internet is trying to tell everybody, here's my magic 3 steps. Do this and you'll have an amazing business. No, you won't. Because you haven't got the skill set yet, because you haven't gone through the failures to know how to knit that together. You have some ideas, and you can, I was going to say shortcut. I hate the word shortcut. You can fast track your learning by knowing a little bit clearer direction of what you should head for, or a little bit better on the decision-making pathway, or learn yourself better so you know how you make decisions so you can do it a bit faster. But you have to go through the process. There is no system out there that says, follow these 6 steps and you will not have another money trouble in your life. They don't exist. Now, there's a lot of people trying to sell that, but what they're trying to sell is the information. What they're not selling is you making the implementation of that information to actually make it do something. If you don't have that, you don't have anything. So, I've become allergic to the regular employee job. Ironically, that's kind of how I started my business nearly 20 years ago. I literally did a mature age apprenticeship. I'd always wanted to get my electrical trade, did it, wrapped up, and I had all my paperwork and all my pieces in play the moment I got my license. I spent 6 months while I was still apprentice knitting everything together, ready to launch the business. And I was like a day into having my electrical license and I was out the door. Now, I did it from the point of view of the quality of work that was in the industry that was bugging the heck out of me. And I refused to sign off on the crap quality that was going into commercial electrical work. So I started my own electrical business because my whole aim was, hey, we can do this better. And then the employee side, to be honest, I would be okay working as an employee, and I've done it. I had quite a few jobs prior to actually starting my business. I didn't mind it apart from the fact that I always wanted to be able to do my best. And I often found that I was hamstrung in what I could do and how far I could go. And so I got into business because I thought, well, that gives me the biggest layer of non-constraint to be able to actually affect the change that I want for other people. I'm curious about the Desmond Power. I'll have to Facebook stalk you later. No. I'm curious about this, the IDF comments before and the Mossad stuff now. I'm curious. I really am curious as to whether there is something that you're alluding to, or something that you're seeing, or if you think I'm somebody else. I don't know. Anyway, amusing comments. So cool. So, Rosie, okay, I'm actually half Aussie, half Filipino. There you go. So is my wife. There you go. And Eric, yeah, it might be a bot. Could very well be. Look, to be honest, one of the things you learn in business is the ability to take everything as water off a duck's back. I love the quote. If you don't have my personal phone number, you don't know me well enough to have a problem with me, and I don't care enough for you to have a problem with me. People are always going to have an opinion. The internet's perfect for it. It is the playground for everybody to have an opinion with zero consequence, because you can just turn the comment off, or you can shut your computer down. So you just say whatever you like. What we've got to learn in business is that people are always going to have those opinions. Now, some people will have opinions because they've heard part of something we've said, and they'll develop an opinion that's kind of based off something out of context. Other times people will literally just go, I don't like the look of your face. I've said I have a face for radio, if you get the joke. I don't care. People are entitled to their opinions, and I think it's something that we are missing in the world, and I think it's stifling creativity, because it's stopping people from expressing things, good and bad. And when people stop expressing things for how they truly feel, they bottle it up, and then it will come out somewhere else. We're way better for people to say what they think, whether we like it or not, because they're words. Who cares? I'm way more concerned that you get people bottling that up and then they let it out somewhere else, and probably more physically. And then we get the world that we've got now, where things get real out of hand real fast. So I have no problem with people having their opinions. Oh, Eric, okay, cool. So in the process of building up some businesses. Nice. But yes, exactly what I was just saying. It can be scary at first. Absolutely, it is scary starting a business. And I was just talking, the whole premise of what I've been talking about tonight is fear. If you understand the psychology of fear, you understand business from end to end, no matter what size you're dealing with. And the fear is on both sides. Now, we all know what fear feels like, but what I was talking about is understanding that when you're trying to get a business off the ground, you're trying to make a dent into the market. People have a fear that you are either a scam, you're not truthful, you're going to waste their time, you're going to try and swindle them out of something, you're going to sweet talk them into something that sounds good and rip them off later. All these fears people carry, and you're going to come in and just be another one. So when you set a business up, you've got to be very clear on who you're serving. You need to, if you're going to a cold audience, like, live online, you need to be able to actually position yourself in such a way that it makes sense for somebody who has never seen your face before and has no idea about what you're offering to give you 5 minutes of their time. 5 minutes of somebody's time online is like asking for a kidney if they don't know who you are. And so when you just go, hey, I've got this amazing thing, stop for a second and ask yourself, who said it was amazing? Generally, when we start businesses, we think it's amazing, but we never asked anybody else. So we don't know how they perceive the thing that we're doing. We try to tell them it's amazing. Now you've got a trust issue because you're saying, believe me when I tell you it's amazing. They're going, I don't believe you. I have a fear that you're lying to me. Now we're back to having to overcome fear. And so the psychology around fear is probably one of the most critical things to understand in business. And if you can structure things in such a way that fear is going to work in your favor, because you can position yourself as somebody who has less risk than the market average of whatever market you're in, and you become the obvious right choice for people to go, there's risk all over here. I'm fearful of all of it, but that one seems like the safest. It has the best guarantee. It has the best whatever it is, the thing that's going to take away that fear. And so when you can strip it back to the fear side, fear is one of those things that is a really powerful motivator, but also probably the number one reason that it is so hard to get going in business, because that's what you're up against. So I'm in the process of building up alcohol in my guts. Nice. That sounds, so Aussie Jace. That sounds like a very Aussie thing what is the time? It's like nearly 11 p.m. That sounds probably about fair for most people. To be honest, I'm quite a fan of a nice drop of rum. Problem is I don't have enough time to sit down and enjoy it these days anywhere near as much as I used to, because I'm all over the place, flying and driving and moving around, but there you go. Good luck with it. And look, to be honest, one of the really interesting things when it gets into the business conversation is understanding that business isn't for everyone. And it's okay to not want to start a business and be okay just doing your 9 to 5 and have a job and, have a good life and build up what you want. One of the most dangerous things is going into business thinking that it's going to solve all of these problems without actually knowing what it's going to actually solve and knowing what you're up against when you go into it. People think, I'm going to start a business. I'm going to start selling something. It'll be great. Probably won't be. It's probably going to be way more stress and headache, especially if you're new to it, because there's so many unknowns. See, I'm going to do this for about the 5th time when we launch this new solar-based platform that we're almost ready to launch, that I'm still working on. When that goes live, I have an audience. I have a business that I've been working in that industry for nearly 20 years. I have a bunch of people that we have done project work for with solar. We have quite a big database of people to work with straight away. I've set myself a target to get 300 businesses and 2,000 users on a pre-launch over an 8-week period for the platform. Now, that is one of those things that you then go, oh my goodness, I even know that is going to cost me probably in the order of maybe $10,000 over 8 weeks in advertising cost just to get in front of enough eyeballs. Because although we have been in business for 20 years and this is a super valuable resource tool, and I've spoken to a lot of our clients, this is something that they're like, this would be amazing. Let us know when it's out. We want in on it. To the general public, I'm unknown. The product is unknown. The guarantees are unknown. And so I'm going to be up against it again to a cold market that doesn't know who I am, doesn't understand the product. And this is where you leverage the elements of business. Paid advertising gets you in front of eyeballs, but you have to have the right messaging. You have to have information that people can get to that is easy for them to understand. If they have to read an essay to understand what you're on about, nobody's going to read it. You're asking for their time with no clear outcome. So all of these elements are the same process that I'm going to have to put in place the moment we launch, which will happen in the next few days. We'll start kicking this off. I'll be up against it like every other new business. It doesn't matter if you started 1,000 businesses, you go through the same process. It's just you get more refined at how you need to set that up and how quickly you can overcome the challenges. So for this new product, I'm going to need to look at what style of ads are going to work. Are static ads going to work? Are video ads going to work? Because in some industries, one will work better than the other. Are we going to need to use big, bold information that catches people's attention straight away? Or are we going to use curiosity that drags people in and they get to a page where they can read the detail about what is happening to give them more context? Which of those options is going to work? So there's so much that goes into even something, like I say, I've been doing this nearly 20 years. And even at my point, I'm going to launch a new product in a new line. I haven't done AI-powered software before. This will be a first. I'm going to be up against those same challenges. So let me have a look at the comments. What have we got here? I smell a pyramid scheme. See, as I was saying, without context, then people are going to see things and understand it from their perspective. And rightfully so. I would be skeptical as well. So my job is to be able to put enough proof and evidence and everything else to make it make sense, that people will look at it and go, it's not actually a pyramid scheme. That actually makes sense. But that right there is the exact thing I'm talking about. People will come in naturally with fear. And they will go, I don't like the sound of that. No, I've heard things similar to that before. No, it's going to be bad. Put me back in my safe place. Get me back to the things I'm familiar with. This sounds too scary. That's business. That's exactly what I've been talking about for the last hour. Make some bread. Interesting comment. I'm not a baker. I do like the comments though. You might have missed a bit where I was saying that it's I'm quite happy to be a platform where people can say whatever they like, whether I agree with it, read it, or go along with it. It's a whole other thing because I get to choose as well. But people are welcome to say whatever they like. But you just reinforce my point about people having a very strong fear base as they get, they're looking at something they don't know, and their instinct is to take them back to something that they already know and are comfortable with because that seems safe. Eric, you have touched on another great point. I will be quick on this because I am going to wrap up soon, but you make a really, really good point in what you just said there. Personality and personality typing is such a big thing to get your head around. If you can understand your defaults and biases when it comes to your hardwiring personality type, you're going to be able to know how to be able to navigate around this way easier. See, if you're somebody who you've said you got the perfectionism side, you find it hard to just launch out and do something. Now, I've got quite a bit of experience between employees and family members who are of that same type, very much risk adverse. Now, risk adverse has an incredible skill set to it when it comes to management because it's the detail focused. It is there's an email there from this afternoon I didn't get back to. I need to make sure that's done before I go home. It's that making sure the crossing of the T's and dotting of the I's, and it is a skill that is massively useful in business. Where you're going to struggle is, as you said, that go for it, launch it part, the take a risk part, the get the wheels in motion. Now, I don't know what size you're at, whether you've started business or where you are. There are a couple of ways to tackle this. One is exposure therapy. Pick some small things that don't have big risk and just jump into them and get yourself used to taking risk. You can do this physically. You could literally go skydiving and jumping off waterfalls and start to build your body physically up to taking risk, and surviving them is going to start to train you to be okay to take risk. That's a practical thing you can do. Now, the other thing that you can do, depending on how you're going about business, is to partner with somebody or to have employees that you can bring in to be the part of the personality type that you're not. So if you're not a go out, go get them and just make those big decisions, take the risks, and you want to do all of the keep it safe and keep everything neat and tidy, then you probably need to be very quick to look at an operations manager or a partner in a business as opposed to trying to do it all yourself. Because if you can have somebody you can trust, and whether you trust via contract, which is, I'm going to give you this opportunity, and here are the guises and bounds of that opportunity. I'm still going to own the business, but I want you to sort of be the front person. I want you to be the operations manager. I want you to be whatever section you're struggling with. And you employ somebody or you partner with somebody to fill the gap of the personality type that you aren't so strong at. For me, I'm the opposite. I'm great at taking risk. I'm going to leave that email unread for weeks because I have a whole bunch of stuff I need to go and do. That one's not the most important, so out the back door, and I'll probably just never reply to it unless I get 5 more emails. One of the first things I went and did was get an assistant. So I've got somebody with that very meticulous personality type that picks up all the crumbs from behind me and makes sure we don't miss anything. Together, we've got a good team. But one or the other, and my personality type, there's a lot of skills that I'm not strong at. But I've learned one of the best things to do in business is you hire for your deficiencies. So one, understanding you have deficiencies, and everybody does. then hire to fill those so that you can actually become the complete breadth of what you need without having to put all that burden on yourself of you having to learn how to do it, because that could be a lifetime of change to try and make that more natural. So yeah, very, very cool point though. So let me just jump in here. Yeah, so Eric, the partner of another type it's a very well-known business concept of being able to build a team. When you hear people talking about building a team, especially in larger businesses, you'll build a leadership team. You will find that you will have, forget who did the personality type, but you can look it up. It's called the color code. You got red, blue, white, and yellow. And this is about what your primary driver is when it comes to your personality type. Reds are very much either get with me or get out of my way, because I'm going that way and I don't care what bottles I knock over on the way there, but I'm going to go get my end goal done. Don't care about the details. Blue personalities are very meticulous, very detail focused, very more on the emotional side than the logical side from a decision making point of view. So they're going to feel a lot more. They're going to be great at detail. They're going to be great at HR, dealing with people. They're going to be much better on that front. Red personality types, which I'm more predominantly, kind of don't give a stuff about too much because I've got places to go and I really don't care. I've had to learn empathy. It was something I wasn't strong in. I was much easier at just brushing everything off. And so you learn to develop the skill sets that you're short in, and then you get your whites, who are very much your reserved, quiet, terrible with deadlines, great artists, and very imaginative, but horrible with deadlines. Someone who's a white personality or strong white personality, the worst thing you can do if you have an employee that is this kind of person, the worst way of getting anything out of them is give them a deadline. You've got to work with them in more creative roles where they don't really have time bounds, and then they can function quite well. Then when you get down into the yellows, they are motivated by fun. If it's fun, we're not. If it's not fun, we're not doing it, is pretty much a yellow's motto. And so understanding how those personality types work, you end up very much in the areas of business. So reds, great CEOs, great visionaries, great driving the ship, terrible at making sure the paperwork's done. Your blues, great at the paperwork, great at the people, great at the meticulous details that actually holds everything together. Your whites are very good at creativity and design, and sit me in a room and leave me with my imagination. I'll come back with something incredible and amazing. And then you've got your yellows, which they're going to be great at organizing your end of year getaways. They're going to make sure that your customers are smiling. They're going to, they may not be in on time in the morning, and they may knock off early because there was something fun to go and do. If you can control it a little bit, somebody like that is a great front person for like a social media type of personality. Someone you want to put out in the public, somebody that's going to be very charismatic and very excitable, very fun. Again, they're not going to be great with detail, but they're going to be really captivating with people. And so knowing how to utilize those people and their skills, one of the first things that I would do with any employee is to give them a personality test. Make sure you understand what their default drivers are, and you can actually know how to deal with them better. So Eric, you were just saying you're a blue-white. If you're blue-white, you're primarily going to be more in the roles of like a, maybe an operations officer, but like if I'm talking C-suite level, you're going to find it hard to be the CEO because you're going to be probably more reserved in how you approach things. You're going to be less combative, probably personality-wise. And so trying to tackle big problems is going to be a bit hard. However, if you can manage the art and learn the art of delegation, you will be amazing, because you're going to not miss a beat on the back end, and you're going to be able to delegate to people who can do the frontline work for you. And you're going to be able to achieve the goal that you've got set for yourself without putting yourself in those high-risk situations that your personality is going to clash with and fight. So being able to find that person, now this is where I would say be careful. I'll take the coach hat on now for business. Be careful with partnerships. Partnering with people sounds like a great idea because you're going to try and share equity. You're going to try and split the business with the two of you. But now you have a divided purpose, you have a divided drive, and if you've hired the right person or partnered with the right person for their personality trait, they are also most likely going to be able to steamroll you into their direction. That's just the nature of the personality. Where I would look at is actually going down the employee track. So I don't know what your business type is. In fact, I don't know if it's there. You can always reach out to me. I'll give you my email. You can reach out. Happy to have a chat via email. I don't want to put anything too sensitive publicly. But would be happy to give you a bit of advice around that one, because it is somewhere that you can get really unstuck into bed with the wrong people. And not wrong because they're the wrong kind of people, wrong personality, wrong who's driving the boat. If it's your vision, then understanding a bit more about the business you're trying to run, how you're trying to run it, be happy to give you a couple of pointers in that, because it very likely you might have to battle it a little bit initially, but you can probably get yourself to a point where you can hire somebody in as that front operations manager, and you can basically be the back office. You can make sure the ship's knitted together and heading in the right direction. You can let them basically be yelling and screaming from the front and do a lot of the public facing stuff that's going to drive things forward. But I would look at doing it more from an employee relationship than I would from a partnership relationship, because of that split focus and that split drive if you're going to try and, split it down the middle. And then if you're not going to give them equal equity, you're not going to get equal effort out of them to actually push the business forward, because they're going to feel like they're only a minor partner in a major thing. And why would I go and put all this effort into something that I'm only going to get a little bit out of at the other end? And if it's your idea, you don't want to be giving up 51+% of the business to just try and get that right person in. So it's a tricky little one, but it is manageable. So definitely something you can do. I'm just going to read what do you got. The issue with delegation is a high attention to detail. I find it hard to accept low standards. So here's a really cool one for you. Sorry, before I forget, my email. You can get me directly, just info, so info at simonlgibbs.com. Let me see if, I don't even know how to drive these live to reply with a comment. Let's see if I can do it. Probably can't. Nope, I'm pushing buttons here. Yeah. So yeah, if you want to send me an email, info, so info at simonlgibbs.com. That'll get to my inbox. Happy to have a more detailed chat around what you're doing. To what you said about accepting low standards, it is the fear of anybody who is detail focused is not enough attention to detail and lack of standards. So from business operations point, you can actually solve this really easy. And it's called job description and KPIs. Key performance indicators are a list of benchmarks that person in that role needs to hit on a daily, weekly, or annual basis. It is the guiding, these are the minimum criteria you need to hit. So these can be things, then you've got SOPs, which are your standard operating procedures. These are, even at a basic form, it's a document of what to do. So you can have a standard workday SOP, which is you sign in at 9 o'clock at the office. You need to check your emails. You need to make sure that there is no priority emails left in your inbox by 11 a.m. You need to make sure that anybody who's called in has answered the phone, you've got back to them by 2 p.m. Whatever your standard day is and how you want that to run. And you set that as a playbook. And then you employ them based on, here is what is required for this role. Make sure you understand it, because this is what I'm going to hold you to. I think you would be great in this role. My concern is you may not be detail focused enough. So I just need to know that you can hit these minimum targets. If you're happy with that and we can make this work, I'm not here to try and beat you to pieces for not reaching it, but I need you to understand this is the standard that I need to set. This is also part of how you develop culture. Culture is just the general understanding of how we operate with each other. So a culture of honesty and a culture of integrity also means that you have to drive that by saying, hey, we need to have a chat, because remember how we agreed to that SOP? This is how you're going to do stuff. My job is to make sure we're running this business to the SOPs to make sure that everything functions. And I'm finding that you're missing stuff here and here and here. Now, part of this can be maybe they're better suited in a different role. There's a lot of nuance to it once you get into actually putting people into business. It's very hard in the beginning in business because one of the big things that you are going to struggle with is you need multi-skilled people to fill, like you can afford to employ maybe one person, but you've got an entire business to run, which at scale is 12 different departments. And you need you and one person to do all of that at a micro scale. And so you're needing somebody with a pretty diverse skill set to at least be able to try and do some of it. So why small businesses use coaches, they use marketing agencies, they use external services to fill those gaps that they don't have skill sets for. The trick with those is you've got to be very careful you're not setting yourself up to fail by signing up to something that is a contract base that may not work for you, and then you end up in a situation where you're tied to some agency for 12 months because you signed the contract without realizing due diligence is a pain in the butt to make sure that you're not getting screwed over, but it's one of those things that you've got to take your time. Where I would look at, if you, and I don't know where you're at, I'm going to throw this out. I'm going to wrap up this evening because I still got to pack my bags and get ready for an early start in the morning. And it is, well, it's 11 p.m. It's not that late. I was up till 2:30. I've still got some work to do. Anyway, the thing that I would say when it comes to trying to start a business is look at what they call a minimum viable product. What can you get to market at a minimum standard that you would accept? Figure out a way that you can deliver that on your own. If you can do that, you solve a couple of problems. One, if it doesn't work, it's only you let down, and you can rethink and you can reinvent on the fly. Number two, that whole minimum viable product with just you delivering it means that you're going to see where the opportunities are. You're going to see where the negatives are. You're going to see the whole scope of what's going on in a real environment. You're going to put it to market and you're going to find people go, no, I would, but, and everybody says the same but. They've got the same problem with it. Cool, fix it. It's much easier to fix it when you're one person in one small business than when you're a massive business and you've got 50 people that all need to change direction now. You've got to rewrite policies and employment contracts and all sorts of stuff. When it's just you can do it in 10 minutes. And so your ability to move in business when you're small is so much better. So iterate, test, push out, try things while you're small. And so you want to put together something that's going to allow you to get to market while you're solo. Which means for anybody who's got a manufacturing idea, they want to build a product, you want to build a widget of some sort rather than service, it's much, much harder because you've actually got to put a lot of capital into actually setting up product manufacturing. I know that because I've done installation work in the solar industry, and we also do manufacturing now. And manufacturing, it's a huge jump, even at a small scale. The don't grow too quickly is more a case of knowledge and capability. Now, you could grow really quickly if you actually had a big pool of the right kind of people to pull into the business, and you manage to land on a highly valuable, high profit margin service or product that you're going to deliver. For example, if you're going to throw $200,000 into setting up a cafe in a town that has a seasonal market and you have 6 months where you have no customers, you're going to have massive overheads, you're going to have terrible cash flow for at least half the year, and you're probably going to be dead in 12 months. Versus, you could start a lawn mowing business, you buy $100 Victor lawnmower off Facebook Marketplace, you find a $300 rusted out trailer, and you could legitimately start a business with just that. If you had to, you could edge the lawn with a pair of scissors. Like, you can start with like almost nothing to start something like a landscaping business. If you knew how to do landscaping because you knew it intellectually, you could then pick up the rocks by hand. You don't even need a wheelbarrow. Like, there are so many things that you could do on, to start solo rather than, so what's this on? Okay, so a brickie, cool. So if you have a skill, so you have a trade, new sell trade, NDIS, okay. So NDIS is an interesting one because you're getting into gubby contracts. So if you're working as a subby, as a sole trader, doing brickie work, that can work. Now, here's where the scaling side of it is going to be, I guess, here's your catch. Obviously, you've mentioned you're good with detail and you have a set standard that you're not going to allow to drop. And so, as a tradesman myself, I'm a qualified electrician, you are then going to have a standard of how you know that trade should be done, and you'll find that so many people in the industry don't measure up to how you want it done. So here is how you manage that. When you say, and this is about bringing everything back to its easiest measurable standard. When you say people don't do their job well or they're not up to scratch, what does that mean? Does it mean they don't do their work they don't brick the walls up level? They're inconsistent with their mud mix. They don't gap the bricks properly, or they're out of level horizontally. So what things would you accept as okay? Where are your tolerances? That's your SOP. That is your standard operating procedure for how you lay bricks. We will allow a deviance of 5 mil over 2 meters horizontally from level. We'll allow 10 mil per meter over level, providing we're not more than 20 mil out overall. Whatever your standards are, and you make that clear when you bring somebody on. You say, here are my standards. Can you meet this? If I'm going to employ you as a brickie, this is what all of our jobs have to be. And I need to know that if you mess this up, if you can't make standard on this, that you're going to fix your mistakes. That's part of having a job. Now, this is recruitment. Next thing we're going to dive into. And I said I was going to wrap this up. Anyway, recruitment. Recruitment is one of those things where you need to sell. It's like advertising. Recruitment is advertising. You're just advertising for employees rather than customers. Recruitment is finding somebody, being clear about the outcome. What are they going to get at the end of it? You're going to make this much money. You're going to work these kinds of hours. We're going to do these kinds of projects. Then you find somebody who's interested in that set of parameters, which is a non-negotiable. That's the work that you do. Then when you interview them, you lay out your SOPs in point form. Here's the overview. I need to know that you can build within these tolerances. I need to know that you're going to follow what we have written out as to how I run the business. If this is how we mix the mud, this is how we mix the mud. And if I find you not doing it correctly, you're not going to have a job. Are you cool with that? So yeah, strange being a boss and not an employee. True. The trick is you're providing leadership. The minute you're running a business, you are a mentor, a coach, and a leader. And you set the standard that people follow. You're not going to have an issue with that. You've already mentioned that you're meticulous with your detail. It's almost to a problem point, but that means you're good at your trade. I'm the same, and it was a struggle. I actually fired a whole bunch of people early on because I just thought they were useless and lazy, until I realized that I was the exception and nobody worked to the level or the output that I did, and I'm the anomaly, not them. I had to gear my whole business back to realize, okay, industry standard says that we're going to get this much work done on an average day, not where I was aiming for and thinking everyone was lazy. That took me a number of years to figure that out. The reason that messed me up is that I had priced all my jobs based on my work rate. Then I employed people and they worked half that or less. And I was like, oh no, we're not making money because I priced it as if I was going to do a job. The reality was, when I sat back and looked at it, I priced all my jobs about 40% under what it would take me to do, and I worked at double the speed of most guys. And so, of course, I lost tons of money initially because I was just underpriced, because I was like, it should only be that. And it never was. But I didn't have a system. I didn't have anything written out. I just went off, it should be that. Terrible idea. Do the maths. Get good at maths, which you're probably good at. So yeah, that's probably without overloading everything about business. But I really appreciate the interaction, Eric. It's been great to sort of chat through this. There is tons more that obviously goes into running a business. It can be an absolute minefield when you get into it. But one, you're a tradie, so you're already a rare resource in the country. So realize that. Don't get conned into contractors or head contractors and other people kind of trying to push back on price. Everybody deep down knows costs are what costs are. Everything shifted a few months ago, obviously with stuff that happened overseas. Things cost what they do. Like from where we were 3 years ago, my travel cost for my team has tripled. That's just what it costs. It's literally the cost of getting the team from point A to point B. It's numbers. And if you do it from a numbers point of view and not from an emotional point of view, which is probably easier for me to say than for you to do, but if you get it out, do the numbers and write it out and go, well, that's what the numbers say. Sorry, this is what it is. And if you lose jobs because you're too expensive, because that's what it costs to do the job, be really glad you didn't take the job. Never take a job just to be busy. You are much better. We came up with this, me and a couple of employees early on in the business, was we're better off going fishing than we are going to work and going broke. Or the other one was, I can go broke on the beach. I can go broke fishing. Why am I doing it crawling through a roof? You've got to know your numbers. You've got to have it out on paper. You've got to lay it out. You've got to know what your annual targets are. You've got to know what your costs are. You've got to know what your profit margins are. And your profit margins probably need to be double what they currently are to make a business viable once you start employing people. Good rule of thumb. Anyway, I am going to wrap up for the evening. Really appreciate the chat, Eric. Like I said, the info at simonlgibbs.com. Feel free to reach out, drop me an email, and yeah, best of luck with it all. And if I can help out, be more than happy to. I remember when I started in the back of a station wagon on my own as well. All right, take care, and I will chat to you all next time I jump on a live stream. We might do it on a little bit more regular basis though. And yeah, there'll be a bunch of stuff coming up. The Simon L Gibbs website's being rebuilt at the moment, but a bunch of stuff will be up there for you guys to be able to follow. And yeah, we'll be around on the socials. All right, take care. Catch you all later.